In the 14 days since the election, yes, it's only been 14 days, we've seen a number of headlines and marketing campaigns aimed at people thinking about leaving the U.S. of A. There's the Italian Village offering $1 homes on a website that was, quote, specifically created to meet U.S. post-elections relocation needs. Or the cruise ship offering a 1-year escape from reality and 4-year skip forward trip. While these headlines and the idea of people en masse withdrawing from the resistance to float on a cruise for 4 years while thinking there will still be a republic to come back to are kind of funny. They're also the result of something many Americans are actually feeling. And unlike in 2016, when you had a number of back-page editorials from academics and columnists saying they want to leave this country, this time the energy is different. This time people are considering it not just because they don't like Trump, but because now they actually fear government retaliation. And don't just take this from me. Google searches for move to Canada surged over 1,000% in the 24 hours after polls closed. Searches about moving to New Zealand climbed nearly 2,000%. And the travel company Expats saw nearly 30,000 people visit its website. I want to make it clear, these are not the whims of fancy New York Magazine readers with homes in the Hamptons musing about a gap year in France while things cool off here in the United States. This is regular people. It's government officials, retired military members, people with trans children asking very serious questions about their future and how they could all be targets under a Trump regime. It's people in mixed status families who, while unable to leave the country, are now thinking about moving to states like California, Minnesota, or Maryland, where Democratic governors are offering to Trump-proof their states. It's Haitian or Venezuelan asylum seekers who are now looking to move to a state that will protect sanctuary cities and is less likely to let Trump take control of the state National Guard for deportations. These are real questions we're now faced with in Trump's America. Joining me now to help us make sense of all of this is Zerlina Maxwell, host of Mornings with Zerlina on SiriusXM. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Zerlina. So I want to start with this. In 2016, as I mentioned, you had people who were like, I'm going to leave the country, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that seemed like, just talk for wealthy people who could just disappear. But in the subsequent years, there has been an increase in American expats who are just like, I don't like the direction this country is going. Talk a little bit about the motivation that some people have to leave the country, because that's a decision that you made even before Trump came back into power.
Yeah, Jason, I think that this is a really, really important conversation that's happening right now. People are not just thinking about leaving the country on a whim. They are seeking safety. And for me personally, it was emotional safety, physical safety, the ability to live in peace and exist in a place where my race doesn't contribute to blocking my imagination and my ability to reach my highest potential and to do my job clear-headed and cover the election, right? I mean, I was dealing with personal loss in my own family, but for me, in this particular moment, especially post-election, I think that what you see in the searching for places to go, people are looking for safety, Jason.
So you are currently in Italy. I've seen a lot of research with people looking at Mexico. Obviously, there's lots of people going to Canada. I'm curious, from outside of this country, how is this being looked at? How do countries in Europe look at like, oh, now you guys want to come over? I mean, is there a perspective now about Americans possibly wanting to flee our shores and come to Europe? Is that welcome? Do people find that sort of confusing? How's it look from abroad?
From over here, I think there are two things that are true. Number one, when Trump comes up in conversation, and I will note here in Italy and especially in Sicily, he doesn't come up in conversation. People are very much living in the present. They are living their lives just like anybody else. But when he does come up, the general consensus is, what is wrong with America? I think that when you see folks coming over here to live, they're confused because they have been sold this PR notion about America as the land of the free and land of opportunity. And when I explain that prices are really high and that things are very expensive in America and it's not exactly the picture that has been sold to you, there's a look of confusion on their faces. And I think that there is a lot of tourism here in Italy, especially in Rome, and people are looking for an escape. But I think that the folks here who are living, they are very much living their lives. They very much are living in the present moments, in the small moments and small interactions between actual humans. And I think that one of the things I've learned in being here is that they deeply value connection, human connection. And that's something that from here, it was so obvious to me that that's something that is lacking in the United States. And it's one of the causes of our divisions, Jason.
So, Zerlina, you've worked, you work in journalism, you've worked on the Clinton campaign, you've been involved in politics in the past. Many people are afraid now. You have bureaucrats, like I just mentioned, retired military people, campaign workers who fear that their only crime is that they worked in the Biden administration or they worked on the Harris campaign, and they're afraid that they will be prosecuted. As somebody who worked in a political campaign that was attacked by Trump, and he said, I want to lock Hillary Clinton up and anybody who worked with her for years. Take us into the mindset of someone who's just dedicated themselves to running a clean, legal political campaign for the last 18 months, who's now being told by the incoming president, I want to jail not only the candidate you work for, but someone like you who may have worked for them.
Well, I think that a lot of folks in that position are looking at one another to help protect each other. I think that that's something that when you're in the trenches of a campaign, that's certainly something you come out of that like you are family, and you are looking to do everything you possibly can on that human level to protect your family. And I think that most of the folks who worked on the campaign they're having those fears, they are just coming up with the specific ways that they can protect each other. And that includes emotionally, Jason. I think that there's a lot of emotion and stress that went into this campaign. I think that the fact that you just said it was 2 weeks ago, it feels like longer than that. But I think that there was so much buildup to the election, and I think everyone is processing trauma and grief and loss in this moment, but they're also trying to get themselves put back together so that they can protect one another from any oncoming threat.
Zerlina Maxwell, thank you so much for joining us. That is a very, very needed perspective. Thanks for coming on The ReidOut tonight.
Thanks, Jason.